Yeah, it's Peter. David Beckham. Of course. You want some tips and tricks to improve your soccer game? No problem. Let's do it. So you want to be a great soccer player, or as we say in Europe, football player. Well, there's a couple of things that you need to know. Should you only be great at dribbling and scoring and shooting the ball? Well, to become a complete athlete, you need to have a solid core, great hamstrings, hip strength, and butt. Should a football player train strength? Of course you should. This is a key element, and as you progress from being a kid towards the elite, involves your hips, your hamstrings, your glutes, your core. So when should a football player start training strength? Around the age of 14 to 15 approximately. This is when we see most injuries occur. This is the time when the bigger teams start to include us in their practice. We have more practice. We go from practicing like 3 times a week to 8, 9, 10, 12 times a week. This means that we're putting tremendous stress on our bodies, and including the fact that you're probably growing. You're going from being a small kid to a huge man. This usually means that you're also gaining weight. So you're becoming taller, you're gaining weight. As we all know, leverage is a huge thing. So when you're a short kid, it's hard for you to injure yourself when you're moving around. But as you grow taller and you increase in size and weight, starting, moving around with this increased height and weight, you're putting tremendous stress on your lower back. And when the lower back fails, something else has to catch it, and that's probably your hamstring, which means that you're putting tremendous stress on your hamstring. If your core is too weak to handle a stop, your legs is taking most of the pressure or the stress, and that's when an injury can occur. If you're having weak hips, this is when you're putting stress on your knees and also a lot of stress on your ankles. What can we do to increase the strength of the hips, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the core? Well, here is some exercises. You can see me doing some catch and throw abdominal work. There's lots of drills that you can do, including our training. Walking lunges for your hamstrings. You lean forward a little bit, short steps. This is very, very taxing for your hamstrings and a great exercise. You also have the Nordic hamstrings. You can do a million exercises to strengthen your hamstrings, but having weak hamstrings will just break your back and damage you. No matter what sport you're doing, having a strong hamstring is a clever move. Also, strengthening your glutes. Well, that's easy, squatting and doing these types of exercises. Also, walking lunges is of course good for your glutes. There's a lot of exercises out there. You can just Google it. I'm sure that your strength coach knows how to include you in that. Then you have the core, the lower back. Then you have the lower back. Very nice exercise for young athletes is the good mornings. As we get older, we get stronger and stronger in our lower backs, and we don't really need that much exercise for our lower backs to keep it in check. As we grow older, I think it's more important to not sit too much and just be, focus more on mobility. But as you're a young kid, you're probably not as strong as you think you are, which means that focusing a lot on strength is very, very good. Then we also have the fact why you're injuring yourself is sometimes an answer to you not being mobile enough. If you're doing a movement where you only need to have this much mobility, then if you're only moving this much, there's no problem. But if your mobility level is playing a football game, you end up with this much space. That means that every time you exceed this level of flexibility, you're risking a major injury. It's that simple. Do you need to be super flexible? No. Do you need to have some kind of mobility? Yes. You have to look at the sport you're doing, right? If I'm a basketball player, if I'm shooting the ball and I have pain in my shoulder or mobility issue here, that means that every time I'm shooting, my own body is trying to make me miss. Use logic. When it comes to football, and we're talking about endurance, right? Because you need to have endurance. You need to be a complete football player. You cannot be a strong person with a huge chest, because let's face it, the greatest soccer players or football players have never been bodybuilders. It's just that simple. You don't want to carry around an extra weight of 20 kilos on the football field, right? It's not going to happen. You're always going to lose those duels when you're trying to reach the ball. It's too far away. Your muscles going to drag you down. It's going to be fatigued too early in the game. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to be strong, but you can't grow big, right? It's okay to have thick legs, because size does not only provide strength. You can be pretty skinny and be super strong, but size gives you stability. That's why you see really, really huge guys being insane in the squat, because they don't need a belt. They're just like, they're so big around the waist that it's like having, sitting in a machine and just pressing up. You don't need the balance, because nothing is pulling you left or right. Strength training, focus on your biceps a little bit, of course. Your upper back is a good thing to be strong, because you're moving around, and if you're weak in the upper back, it's going to be tough on you if it's a physical game. So the chest, of course, you can do something, but if you're looking at some of the best players in the world, like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he does not have a huge chest, because there's no need for him to have it. It's only extra weight, and you want to be as low weight as possible when you're jumping, the head duels, whatever. I see a lot of people training things like running the 5K, doing things like this. And do I think it's a good thing to be able to run the 5K or run a mile? Not really, You need to be able to run 5 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters. And you need to be able to do this for 45 minutes. So if you can do it for 60 minutes, that means that 45 minutes is going to be a joke. You can never compare running 10 laps around a field with running on the field in a game. One of the greatest endurance tests for football is the beep test. And yes, I know there's a lot of beep tests, but there's only like a couple that is commonly used, and reaching an 11 or a 12, I'd say, is a must for any person that's gonna play a football game. And you're gonna say, well, you know, I've seen people do 23 on the beep test. It's not the same beep test, trust me. If you're reaching 14 on the beep test, that is the kind of standard, you're elite full fitness. It doesn't mean that you can run like a crazy person for 90 minutes. Of course not. It just means that you're able to run 20 meters, stop, 20 meters, stop, 20 meters, stop, 20 meters, stop for a very, very long period of time with increasing speed as you go along. I see a lot of people cheating as you get more and more increased speed, and they run and they just turn back and they took like 1 or 2 or 3 steps when you hear the actual sound. This is not okay. Don't lie to yourself. If you're gonna test your fitness level, if you're cheating, is like, what? I mean, come on, you're a joke. So just stay true to yourself. Reaching at 12 is good. Reaching 11 is like, okay, but reaching at 12 is a must, almost, if you ask me, if you're above the age of 15. So the beep test, very nice. If you got any questions regarding any sport, just let me know. Write in the comment, like if you like.